All right, welcome back to another conversation on the Society of Responsible Men. Today, once again, I'm joined by our new team player, Siler, and
Old team player.
Or main antagonist.
right, the antagonist. And I think before we get started, I want to have a little bit of an announcement here where I think we were talking in length and we decided that our previous episode, 21st Century Dating, should be a sub-series within SORM, and that will be part 1, and we're going to have many other parts to come as well over a period of time, because I think we have a lot of questions that we need to try and answer, or try and give a valuable answer rather, and once again, to make men more responsible, well, at least in the dating aspect. Okay, but today we have a very interesting topic, and I worded it out in such a way as, who do men trust to cry with? Now, there's this common stereotype or stigma or statement that men do not cry, and first of all, it's anatomically inaccurate, because we do cry, but I think there's that stigma that comes around it, is that in order for a man to cry, it depicts more weakness than anything else. The reason why I say it like this, who do men trust cry with, is more directed to men choose the people that they cry with. And that choice is determined by many attempts with other people that have judged them and have called them weak. So again, Siler, Shady, thank you for joining. Right. Any good news for me today?
It's Friday, the sun is out.
Still cold.
Yeah, that's fine. That's why I'm wearing the shorts. And I'm preparing for my farm experience.
Oh, the kilt?
Oh no, that I've left back in Edinburgh.
Siler, any good news for us today? Besides waking up?
I'm here.
This man probably does practice mindfulness more than us, Shady.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so again, common misconception or stereotype or stigma, or however you want to call it. Men do not cry. Why don't we cry? It's a lesson that has been taught to us, possibly by our fathers and by their fathers, and it is because it's a symbol of weakness. Now, anatomically, it's inaccurate, because as human beings, we cry, right? So even if we're not necessarily crying, we're tearing. And I think it's a very important thing to set the tone and set the bar, or at least try to set a particular standard by asking the first question. And the first question is, when did you last cry?
Well, I'll start with that, and I'm not embarrassed to say it was Wednesday.
Okay.
It was in front of my mother, and it was a whole lot of things, in personal capacity, what's been going on. And it was, it's like when you shake that Coke bottle.
Yeah.
And then you open it, and then it just floods out. And I think when we bottle things up, it's not a good thing. And I decided, I said to myself, you know what? There's nothing wrong with shedding a tear. And mine was on Wednesday. When was yours, Siler?
Every day of my life.
What are you crying about?
Everything. Oh, you know my life, how things are going, the dating market. No, I'm kidding, guys. The last time I cried, was a long time ago. Maybe in my teenage years, I would say.
So that was the last time your mother gave you hiding.
Mother, bruh. It's mother and father. Same Jujutsu Kaisen jumped me, bruh. What do you mean? It was like they were playing ping pong.
And yeah, I thought my sister was the only person who get a hiding on her birthday.
Oh, dear. Right. So I think it's important. Why is it important to recognize when is the last time we cried? Is to point out the impact that this "men do not cry" statement has on men initially, right? So it's a thing where are responsible men supposed to cry? And if they do cry, does it make them weak?
I think what's happened is we all know that idiom. Don't cry over spilled milk,
Right?
and we are always taught that. Well, girls can cry if the brother hits the sister, it's fine. If the sister hits the brother, then you shouldn't be crying.
Mm-hmm.
You should get tough, and you have to be. Within everything, you have to be tough. Even as a baby, and especially if it's a boy, we don't generally allow the baby to cry. We cry 1 or 2 times, but we let the girls cry more. Now, I don't believe it's a sign of weakness, and I'll point it out because you get 2 types of tears. You get tears of sadness and tears of joy. And we'll start with the latter, tears of joy. We, as you know, we're both F1 supporters.
Yep.
2024 British Grand Prix. Let's not look at last Sunday's race. Let's look at the 2024 British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton wins his first race in nearly 3 years. Right?
Okay. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Brilliant race win. And what did he do?
You can see tearing up now.
So Lewis cried in the car, not because of anything. It was 2 bad seasons that he had in that car, but also the ignominious defeat that he suffered at the end of 2021. But to his credit, he didn't go and publicly cry about the controversy surrounding that race. When it came to 2024, there was a lot of valor because people saw that he was crying. It was tears of joy that was from years of frustration. And I think that is the one sense where we don't look at it as weakness. When it's tears of sadness, we look at it, for example, in a funeral. There's a lot of emotion, people cry. But what I've seen, and sometimes why a lot of the times I can understand why you say don't cry over spilled milk. Last year whenever I go into prison, we had our prison weekend, and there was a gentleman there. I'm not going to name his name, but he was in for life for kidnapping and murder. And the first thing he did was cry profusely the whole day. He was crying to get into the program. And one of the guys said to me, you know what, this guy's faking those tears. He's looking for sympathy. And I said to the guys, look, it's a nasty thing to say, everybody's in prison. I said, no, this guy is actually faking those tears.
Okay.
A week later, we found out that he was faking those tears because we have a thing with reunions. So the guys come in and we find out how they were. We got him at the cells and we said to him, are you coming through? No, I'm good. So then we knew he was playing on everybody's emotions because he was crying because he was looking for a lighter sentence. And that is the thing of don't cry over spilled milk, and I can understand that. Because a lot of times when men do cry, it's a lot of shit that they go through, but sometimes they're looking for sympathy. And this was the guy that was looking for sympathy.
So in that sense, would you say that the people who use crying to gain sympathy, that is weakness?
Yes.
Well, you see,
Yeah, because if you sorry to cut you off there, look at Oscar Pistorius, right? And I'm gonna use the word nicely. Now, the idiot was crying because he's getting sentenced, but you took a life. There was no repentance of what he did, right? If, like Hansi, when Hansi was caught for match fixing, Hansi genuinely repented, right? Do we condone the crime? No, we don't. But there was a genuine act behind what Hansi was doing. With Oscar Pistorius, it wasn't, because he was getting sentenced, he knew where he was going, and his life was effectively over.
So irrespective of however the defense may have argued this statement, he was going away, and
Yes.
he knew it.
Yes, and that's why he started crying. Hansi, what he did when Hansi cried was, he knew he caught on shit. He stood before public commission, and he never ever played the sport again.
Yes.
Right? And he lived with that decision. He didn't challenge it. And unfortunately, a year later, he passed on. God bless his soul. Oscar kept challenging it. Why? Because you were crying for the public to see that you were looking for public sympathy.
So crying, when you use crying, I guess there's the reasons you touched on, joy and sorrow, but crying, as we've seen, or as you've just illustrated to us, can be used as a tool.
Yes.
As an opportunistic tool, yes.
Yes.
So, first thing is, right, crying is a physical expression of emotion.
Yes.
Right? Now, when you naturally see a person crying, we automatically feel that something went wrong. I don't suspect, unless you see someone like actually smiling and jumping for joy and then wiping their tears, then okay, that's overtly them showing tears of joy. But naturally, when you see a person crying, you want to think that something isn't great, something isn't right. More often, you would notice that these tears are there to obtain a sense of sympathy, to which I call it's an opportunistic thing to do, right? Some people can cry on demand, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's genuine, right? And I think here is what I'm trying to highlight, is that for men, durations are long between crying, right? Be it for joy or be it for sorrow. We usually have moist eyes, but we don't necessarily see the tears run down our eyes, right? Bad moments are hidden, though. I feel that bad moments are hidden because why are men told not to cry? We are problem solvers, so we are learned. So we learn to be problem solvers. Who teaches us to be problem solvers? Our caregivers, be it our fathers, be it our grandfathers, whoever we grew up with, who has this father figure somewhere in your life. You put your mind and soul into trying to solve the problem. So you put your mind and soul into your work and into your efforts, and the effort and the work that you do is to correct the situation that is causing this emotion that we do not understand. But irrespective of the outcome, the emotion still stands. It's just a little bit more elevated, so we cry. So there's this other thing that we say is that when men cry, they cry for everything, right? Everything that has happened to them, they cry once, and then after that they're done.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's what drives it, is that we block it over a period of time because we're trying to rectify the situation, that when we do rectify the situation, or don't, we end up bursting into tears, and we cry for everything in that moment. But I think I want to come back to the point of disingenuine tears and crying, right? So we see it in a lot of toxic relationships, more so. I'm going to say it, that women do take advantage of this,
yes,
right? Women do cry. I'm not saying all women, I'm saying most women know how to cry on demand because they want to get something. They want to get some level of attention, whether it's from their partners or whether it's from their neighbor, simply to try and get the other person into trouble or to alleviate responsibility from themselves. So that's the thing. So I think most responsible men know when to cry, and it's after the job is done.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I remember when it came to with my dad's funeral, I remember we spoke on the phone.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you picked up, I was remarkably calm.
you were, which
Or-
is not surprising.
But a lot of people thought unnaturally so. And I remember when I wouldn't say I was robbed of it, but when I put my father's coffin into the hearse, there's a moment there when I said, okay, now it's time to release a bit of tears. And my cousin came and she came and hugged me, and it was like, okay, fine, that's the sense of it. You can say, okay, cool, I'm not gonna cry, that's fine. But I did one time use disingenuous tears, and I was caught in Joburg driving on my license.
Oh dear.
And I was issued a 500 Rand fine. So it's Christmas bonus is up. You don't have money.
Yeah.
And I go to court and I start crying in the court.
So to get out of trouble.
Yeah. And the best part was where I actually came when I was laughing was the magistrate squashed the fine and he said to me, I said, why? He says to me, go home. I'm like, why? He says, pathetic. You're crying in court.
Oh dear.
Right. So it was a roast, but I was like, the one time I enjoyed being roasted was that time.
Because you got something out of it,
because
even though you were insulted.
Yeah, I was being disingenuous with the tears, and I'm sure we've all done something like that before.
Oh, okay.
No, I have not cried to gain sympathy. You know, when you're taught as a man not to cry, why would you then cry for sympathy? Would that not be counterproductive? So then, no, Shady, I did not use tears.
But sometimes when men are disingenuous in their tears, it's because of opportunism.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. It's not about, if you are a man that is taught, like in general, you shouldn't cry. To cry for an opportunity or to get yourself off the hook for something would be counterintuitive to what you've been taught. So you wouldn't generally do that.
Okay, so I think I know where you're going with this. So remember when I said what I said, right? So like men cry when the job is done, irrespective of the outcome. So in this situation, in this scenario, very light-hearted, and it was if you had to look back at it, it was something that
was creative,
mischievous, so to say. Our direction, I think, what you're alluding to is that when men cry disingenuinely to obtain opportunity, or opportunist in that essence, it's to manipulate the situation, and that in itself is not a responsible thing, right?
Yeah.
So from a mischievous point of view, I can understand. Was it a responsible thing to do, Shady?
No.
Of course not, right? So, but alluding to, I think remember the question we did in our last segment is what message do you have for the abusive men? And I think this comes down, well, kind of follows through into this one. And we see and notice a lot of men crying for opportunistic elements in their lives, right? Abuse being one of them. And it's not responsible. It's nothing to be respected about. There's nothing to be respected about in that element. So, but you're saying that you're going to take whatever comes your way and not cry about it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I haven't used tears in the way that Shady has. And rightly so.
Okay.
And the magistrate was right to call him pathetic because it was. It fucking 100% was pathetic. And he admits it. You admitted, Shady. It was. And you know you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know. A, I should have had my license on me, and B, I shouldn't have cried in court. But you know,
And you didn't take responsibility in that instance.
and I'm not denying what I did, right? Because I saw it as an opportunity. I saw it as an opportunist way of getting out of something, right? I had to pay the fine. I would have paid the fine regardless, right? If he said to me, "Don't pay the fine," but he says to me the fact that I cried and I said, "Okay, let me see how far I can push this," because I think a lot of the time with disingenuous tears, and it's very important because I've noticed one thing: guys can tell if other guys are disingenuous in their tears. Women can't. Right? So that guy knew that I was disingenuous, but he decided to show me mercy, and then on top of it, just call me pathetic. Because as soon as he said to me pathetic, I started smiling. But I waited for him to stamp to say the fine has been squashed.
Okay. I do believe that women who are genuinely invested in men, or in their men or man, will have blurry vision when it comes to what is genuine and what is disingenuine. Again, we come back to the last thing I said. I remember saying that the most important thing that a man has is his word.
Yes.
Right? So it comes down to the fact that women will take a man for the word if they commit to their word. However, if a man does not commit to the word and then uses emotion as an opportunistic way to get out of his lack of commitment, is regarded as weak.
Yeah.
Right? So first of all, what is genuine about your relationship? Nothing. Right? Because there is no word. And therefore no commitment. So what is genuine? The only person that's holding a genuine candle in that relationship is the woman.
Yeah.
And how long can you stretch how long can you stretch disingenuousness before she starts to realize, you know what, you're crying for nothing, or spilt milk in that instance?
I think a very long time, honestly.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is, you see how many women stay in these relationships with these men. They can't let go, even though they know he's not a good person, not a responsible man, cries for all these kinds of things. There are still people who stay in those kinds of relationships, are they not? So it can go on for long.
Context is very important when you come to that part over there, right? There's a lot of elements in that scenario, right? If you're looking at a traditional woman, a respectful and respected traditional woman, it's not necessarily a matter of maybe there's a code, maybe there's religious aspects, or maybe there's a financial problem, right? We take an example of a woman who's in a 20-year marriage with a person who is very disingenuous, and she's never worked a day in her life. Every basic need is provided for, aside from all of the extra stuff. So remember, creativity is very important to keep a relationship going. Now, because creativity is so important, there's a lack of creativity in that 20-year marriage. And the person says, yeah, no, okay, I'm going to get you we're going to go to the movies, we're going to do all of those things, and then it doesn't happen. How long before she starts to see that this man, the only person holding this relationship, is her?
I think it's I don't know if you ever watched the comedy sketch of Eddie Murphy Raw.
Oh.
So Eddie Murphy kind of summed it up. It's going to sound very profound what I'm about to say now. So that woman will get the guy with the super dick.
Yeah.
Right? Bang the hell out of her. And then he starts messing around. And every time he comes back with an excuse, no, I'm sorry. But because she loves him, but she loves the orgasm more. And then what happens is she and the girls have a weekend away on the Bahamas, and there's a guy walking,
right,
also with a magic dick. And in that sense, she decides, okay, let me try this magic deck, because now she's in a sense of vulnerability. And then all of a sudden, she leaves that previous guy for the guy that she met in the Bahamas. Not out of the sense of the magic deck necessarily, but there's now an emotional connect.
Sure.
And I think a lot of the time is when you being disingenuous is a massive problem on both sides of the factor. If a man cries in front of his wife because he's caught on shit, he's being disingenuous. Especially if he's been caught cheating. You don't cry. You go out, you repent, you say, listen, I fucked up, and I cannot use that emotion. I had a friend of mine in school. It's so funny. We were very good friends, but we never got along. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Nathan, his girlfriend at the time, she was telling me about how you was, and you was like, oh no, you came from a broken home, this. And I said to her, you know what, Leanne, the only thing you have for you, going for you right now, is you got a nice rack.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing on the sympathy of all of you guys because you grew up in a broken home. I never played on that sympathy because I didn't stay with my parents for 3 years. I stayed with my granny, and that's difficult on its own. You don't see your parents for I didn't see my parents for 3 years. So I didn't sit back and cry about it. I was just like, okay, fuck it, let me just move on with my life. And when she realized about the disingenuous part of it, you could actually see the change in the perception of the human being.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time I've noticed when guys use their emotion, they start from a very, very young age. We used it a lot of the time when we'd catch on shit. You fail a test, you broke something. Who's the first person you're going to cry to?
Your parents.
You're not going to cry to Sanjay. Sanjay's got the belt ready for you.
I think I would more so cry to him than my mom.
No, you broke a window. Let's just say you broke a window.
Yeah, no, I would go to him more than my mom.
But most, I'm speaking from my experience, I'd go to my mother.
Yeah.
Before I go to my father. And I would use their tears now to play on my mother's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys that did that, they realized that if I'm going to be disingenuous around my granny or my mother, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to try the same thing on the opposite sex, and this is what a lot of guys do today even.
Yeah, they do. So I think there was something I was alluding to as well. So again, I always say that there are certain things that men need to do to mature.
Yes.
Right? Those are one of those things. If you're crying out of disingenuousness and if you're crying crocodile tears, there's a part of you that is immature. There's a regression point, however you want to call it. And it makes you, yes, you will obtain a certain reward, very short-lived reward, but there's no responsibility towards that reward. There's no respect towards that reward, and therefore makes you a weak person in that essence, right? So to sum up this question, I would say that responsible men take a long time to cry because the aim is to solve the issue. Responsible men who are respected and respectful, who are confident and dangerous, will cry when the job's done, irrespective of the outcome. So it will either be tears of joy or it will either be tears of sorrow, but the outcome is that. Weak men who are never respected and are disrespectful will cry wolf with their tears to obtain a certain outcome that they do not deserve.
Yeah, and I think a nice example of that. We are football lovers. World Cup is now upon us. Notice, we look at the last World Cup, right? If Messi was crying because he won the trophy, right?
Yeah, he never scored a goal.
Thankfully, no, he scored the first goal. But
Did he?
Yeah, and then Mbappe was crying because France lost. I'm just using an hypothetical now.
Yes.
So there's respect on both sides. But would you respect Neymar every time he cried when he got tackled?
No.
Isn't that what happens in soccer though?
No, but I'm saying some players take it overboard, just like men. And I like to use football as an example because it's a universal sport.
Yes.
Everybody watches it. Sam Cane at the end of the 2023 Rugby World Cup was crying because he knew he fucked up. He fucked up because he was the first captain to get sent off in a World Cup final. He was the first player to get sent off in a World Cup final.
Right.
And he was the captain. Right? So he knew, okay, you know what? But 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, when you ask him about what happened, he was like, mate, I got sent off. I made a mistake.
Right.
And he doesn't cry about it anymore. But then you get someone who continues to cry about something that they've done, and hence, the spilt milk.
The opportunism.
Yeah. If I know I did something wrong and I got into shit that time, why am I going to cry 3 years later over the same story?
Okay. So yes. So what I'm saying is they're obtaining something that they didn't deserve. And I think it is important to note it. You summed it up with that example perfectly, right? Football is that great example of opportunistic tears, even though they're not crying. They're just pretending to get hurt. Versus, the victory of final. Okay, so moving on from that question, I think we have it summed up pretty well. How do we know we cry into the wrong person?
I'd like to look at it like this, yeah, right? So you found yourself in a situation, right? It's not a great situation, and one thing that's so awesome about you and Silas' professions is there is no judgment on someone coming in here, and I'm sure you've had it in your practice where grown-ass men, successful men, come in and pour their eyes out in a counseling session.
Right.
And I've always believed that when you go for counseling or when you do break out, the best thing to do is always in front of someone that's normally neutral, where there's no judgment involved. Whether you being this, because I always say this, if you're being disingenuous in front of a neutral person, they can normally pick it up.
Right.
Whereby if I'm being disingenuous, like again, I'll use the traffic fine for an example. You, my friend, what are you gonna do? You're gonna pick it up and say, this fuck has been disingenuous, but you know what? It is who he is, right? You're not gonna correct me, or you're not gonna say to me anything. If it's a really bad situation, the patronizing is gonna come in because I says, okay, no, I understand, I hear you. This, and this. Now, when you speak to someone that's neutral, they will be able to help you in the sense that when you're crying, they will actually tell you, okay, this is what's happened. This is maybe where you've gone wrong. This is maybe what you need to do. Because instead of us, we always try and fix situations, but we're trying to fix it from people that we want to hear the answers from, not from people that we don't want to hear answers from.
Right. So I think we kind of defined the right person to speak to, right? Okay, so it's a person who you can cry to, a person who would show no judgment, would not punify you in any way, and would show no sense of disingenuousness, right?
Yes.
So complete empathy is the right person to talk to in that element, right? I can throw a spanner in the works and say that maybe you cried to this person once and they showed you all of these things: no judgment, no discrimination, and no disingenuousness. But over time, you start to notice that you come to me crying all the time. I would say that am I becoming tired of your tears? Therefore, I will no longer show you empathy, or is it an element of I'm starting to see the cracks of opportunism coming in, or is it something of that kind?
Well, I think that goes back to what we were saying before. Or is it men cry when the job's done? If you're crying all the time to the same person, obviously that doesn't signal when the job's done, right? So would that not be just falling into the realm of trying to gain sympathy from this individual?
Okay, so trying to gain a realm of sympathy. Okay.
If you're crying all the time, obviously, if you cry once in a while to that individual, there's an element of genuineness to it, depending on what you're crying about. But generally, if you're crying, over, maybe it's like a year or two, and then you cry to that person again, it's as opposed to every month. There's quite a difference in that. And obviously, if you're crying every month, what does that say about you?
Are we trying to rectify the situation, or are we doing?
Can you try and rectify the situation every month? Is your life that rough? Is your hero's journey that rough that you're crying every month?
I'm going to say this like this here. Obviously, now I'm going to go refer back to the Bible now for our Christian listeners. In the book of Samuel, Samuel was a little prophet who was called by God. And there was a King Saul. So when Saul died, Samuel cried every day. And God himself said to Samuel, "Why are you crying when I've given you a king?" And Israel's greatest king, King David, came about. But I'm not saying God had to step in. I'm saying there comes a time where you stop crying and you get on with yourself. I'm going to use football again as a wonderful example. For me, in terms of the greatest ignominious defeat, was when Roberto Baggio missed his penalty in USA 94 against Brazil. And he stood there with hands on his hips, distraught. Wasn't crying, but he just stood there, lost. And what did he do? 4 years later, he played brilliantly. Unfortunately, Italy didn't win the World Cup. But he never let that part of his life break him. And I think a lot of the time when men cry, we get to that specific part, that penalty that's been missed, and we use that as sympathy and as fuel to carry on. A friend of mine lost his father a few years ago, and in the beginning I felt sorry for him because he'd phone me, he'd cry, and I said, look, I know you can't afford therapy, I know therapy is expensive. I said, you need to speak to someone, because unfortunately when friends cry amongst each other, a lot of the time we forget that those friends are not qualified professionals.
Okay.
Right, and I think it's one thing that we conveniently forget. Because if I cry in front of you all the time, yes, you are a professional, but there's an element of bias towards it. When you cry in front of a neutral person, they will be able to discern. And a lot of the time, when men tend to take their lives because of being afraid to cry, they do that because of there's a stigma you shouldn't cry, but also we need to balance it properly. You need to balance it when you're in genuine need of crying, or when you're being disingenuous.
And I ask you this question. You say cry in front of a neutral individual. Does that mean you should not cry in front of people who you trust, like friends, like your girlfriend, like your parents, like your siblings? Are they...
So I'm saying in a normal aspect, you can cry in front of that person, yes. But if it becomes a continuous pattern, right, then it becomes disingenuous. Because, like Adib said, you can't be crying over something every month.
No, but now, hold on now. You see, here's the thing. We're not talking about disingenuineness. We're not talking about that. That we've established is something that you shouldn't, as a responsible man, be doing. I'm asking you, when you are genuinely crying, you said that it should be a neutral individual. Is that always the case? Because that would mean that you can't cry in front of your friends, your family, your siblings.
Let me step into that one, right? So I would say that men trust once, especially with their emotions. Men trust once. And the amount of energy that your friend took to give you a phone call was probably massive.
Yes.
Right? The amount of courage and braveness to do it in some way, shape, or form was I can't measure it in any way, but I think what Sile is trying to drive is that he reached out to a person that he trusted,
Yes.
which was you,
Yes.
right? And you, in your trusting capacity, said, "This is as far as I can go, but I can't give you anything more."
Yes.
From a point of, so like, untrained. So we are therapists, right? So let's say we know theory and we know certain know-hows on how to manage grief or manage tears or manage complex emotions. Men that are not trained in our division do not know how to do that. Sometimes they would pass on the teachings of our fathers, right? So the same thing, don't cry, it's going to be okay.
The tough love
Campaign,
yeah,
so to say, the tough love campaign continues. Whereas we, in our minds, we want to acknowledge, number one, the loss. Number two, we want to acknowledge what the loss has done to a man and how it's impacted their emotional and psychological state. At the same time, we also want to do the following. We want to bring them closer to closure. And we also want them to know that life will continue. Not that they have to get over it. Their life will continue. And we know how to do it on a step-by-step kind of way. But I think from the untrained perspective of psychology, just general man, and although their teachings are noble and they come from a great place, it can cause more harm than good. I think that's the driving point over there. But yeah, is that the driving point?
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly, because there's only, hypothetically, you guys aren't trained, right? Hypothetically.
Right.
And I come every single day, right? And I come and say, oh, I dip. Chelsea lost on the weekend. And Chelsea go through a fucking losing streak. And every time I'm coming to you, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to sound like a fucking broken record.
You would, right? So I'll take it to an extent further, right? Here's the energy of a man untrained in the field of psychology. Shady comes to me, I'm untrained, and Shady comes to me and he expresses his constant, constant grief about how his partner is treating him, his girlfriend, fiance, wife, right? And I sit and I say to him, okay, so what would you rather have happen? What would you want? And we sit and we brainstorm solutions in some way, shape, or remember, men are problem solvers, right? So he cries, I allow him to cry, no judgment, no punifying, no disingenuousness, complete empathy, because I don't want to, maybe sympathy in this case, because I don't want to see him cry anymore, right? But then we brainstorm ideas and we come to certain solutions. Okay, plan date nights, let's be a bit more creative, let's do certain things that are a bit out of the box or anything of that nature. And he goes on to continue to do it, right? Comes back the next week and he's still crying about the same thing. So then we sat down and we were like, okay, we brainstormed a couple of ideas. And we brainstormed it and we were like, we evaluated it in our case. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Did you? No. Okay, why? Work's been tough. I had to go meet the family. I had family responsibilities. I had to walk my dog. Irrespective of all of those things there, we have come to the conclusion that a general man will not see that as excuse. to avoid responsibility, but we see it as, okay, I'll give you some slack. 3 weeks later, same issue. At what point do I stop being
Just a nice guy.
sympathetic towards something? I would say that because of opportunism, he has a place to cry. I've given him that space, right? And eventually, I feel betrayed by him because he's taking my time. I'm not taking his time. Now, I come back to the set. Men trust once. And how do we know when we're crying to the wrong person? Well, a responsible man knows that if you're going to go to a person that is disingenuous, you're going to see it the first time through the following. They're going to either see it through, they're either going to negate everything that you just said. So, for example, they ignore it. They practice ignorance in some way. So, you tell them what has been bothering you. You tell a friend that's what's been bothering you. And they change the topic. Are you going to cry to that person again? Are you going to trust the person to cry to again?
No.
Right, cool. That's number one. Number two, the person goes to your friend and your friend is going to say, yeah, no, it's between the two of us, irrespective of what it is, right? But then you had a family thing and everyone knows. Or at a friend's gathering, for example, and everyone knows. You know who you told. Are you going to trust him again?
No, because of the gossip.
Right? Because of betrayal, right? And betrayal in that element over there, it happens once, it never happens again. I think men that are very vulnerable, I'm not going to call them weak, but I'm going to call them vulnerable. Those who don't have a choice to speak to that one person that betrayed them or shows them ignorance, those are the men that we need to worry about. So they're crying to the wrong person because of circumstance. They don't have anyone else to cry to. You're their last hope. After that, it's either two things. You become a rock, stone cold, and people will never recognize you afterwards. Or your head finds a rock in that essence, and you never wake up again.
Because I think also when we look at tears, we're all Dragon Ball Z fans here. But I don't know if you remember on Planet Namek when Vegeta cried.
Yeah.
Right. He cried when the Saiyans were obviously wiped out by Frieza.
No. He cried. I remember on Planet Namek. Yes, you're talking about that. Yes, Vegeta did cry then because his last hope for, I guess, to sort of stop Frieza's tyranny was actually Goku, a person he saw as a lower class Saiyan.
Yeah.
So he was coming to terms with all these emotions that he, the Prince of all Saiyans, wasn't going to be the one who defeated Frieza, but he had to leave it to someone he saw as inferior.
Yeah. Well,
and he had to do that, he had to let go of his pride. Yeah. Okay.
Hence why sometimes, but he did it, and he didn't care. He didn't. He was trustworthy in front of Goku to say it, right? He let go of his pride, and I think a lot of the time when men, you mentioned it earlier, trust. You said when to speak or break in front of a person, it's trust. And it's another thing that we used as pride, because I was actually happy that you summed it up. I was thinking of it in a different way, but you summed it up perfectly. Was the pride aspect.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the time, men have pride, and it's a good thing to have your pride. But sometimes when they say put your pride in your pocket, and putting your pride in your pocket is also, again, not being afraid to cry, but also not overplaying your part. You know, when someone overstays their welcome, right? It's all nice here and there, but now, again, I'm crying every day, and like I made the illusion, like I made a reference to the Bible earlier, and you also brought it up. You give me a solution. The solution that God gave Samuel was David.
Yeah.
But Samuel kept crying over Saul. And eventually, any rational human being is going to get tired of it, regardless of who you're crying to. And the thing where I use Vegeta as an example is Vegeta only cried once.
So it comes back to the part where we say durations are long between crying.
Yes. And there's banter between him and Goku. There might be a bit of envy, but there was a underlining respect that Vegeta has for Goku. But he never brought it up again. Right? Or he didn't cry about it again.
Which comes back to our main question. No. Who do men trust? I always believe that a responsible and a respectful man who is confident and dangerous picks the people to have in his life, right? Particularly for times to be vulnerable, times to be playful, but the most important thing in that, in picking of the friends or picking of the partner or picking a wife, is you all share something in common, and even if there are key differences between the two of you, you respect it, and it is never spoken about, but it's something that's never done. So, for example, I go to Shady's place, and they're doing maybe going to Shady's place. There's this act of praying before eating, right? I may not be Christian, but I will take part in the prayer because it's a respectful thing to do. In his account, when he used to come over to the house, every room was accessible with shoes except for the prayer room. And if he wanted to enter the prayer room, he would have to take his shoes off, or he just doesn't go there. Ironically, the PC was in the prayer room, so he had a choice. But that's what it was, right? So there are these unspoken similarities between the two, between friends and between partners. So, for example, if again we'll come back to friends, you share the same mindset and same goals, then your guys are in that same place, right? And then with your partner, now that's the most important part. I always say that men should pick their wives based on the fact that they can cry with them or cry to them. But they should also pick the wife that is able to let them know that they are crying continuously and they need to stop crying and do something, right? Men who become a darker version of themselves, if you must, Homelander, have picked people in their lives that have picked people who, number one, make his life miserable. So friends that are opportunistic in nature. I need money. The only thing tying your friendship is the fact of how much money you have cash sent to this friend. Other than that, there's no conversation, there's nothing, there's nothing, right? But you trust this person enough to have a conversation with them. They're practicing ignorance towards you. So that kind of thing. The other friend is the opportunist in saying that my wife kicked me out. Can you spot me the couch? The only thing tying that relationship is the couch, right? And that is not genuineness, right? A man in that essence is fragmented. There's nothing genuine about his connections with other people. He has no place to cry. Go back to the wife. And we go to the wife and and remember what I say. men trust once. So he married this person, but he married the wrong person to be vulnerable with. Goes to the wife and he cries to the wife, and the wife ignores him entirely. The only connection that he has with his wife is a piece of paper.
I was going to say something different, but
Not even that. Not even that. You will notice that men who can't cry to their wives, who can't cry to their partners, they're sexually dormant. There's nothing there. They checked out, right? And this is the part where I would say that the man is going into a very dark, dangerous territory.
Yeah.
That he either comes out a man with nothing, because like he actively realizes he has nothing genuine in terms of social connection and partnership connection, or his head finds a rock and he never wakes up.
And I think that's the danger with also finding the wrong partner.
Yeah.
So the danger of finding the wrong partner is when you, again, crying in front of someone. And I'll use a nice example. Remember when we were coming here, Sila, you and I were speaking about Ahead and Margaret. And I'll always say one thing. Ahead is someone that she doesn't touch a candlestick to Margaret.
Okay.
And we spoke to one day, and I said to her, so if your boyfriend cries in front of you, and the first thing, and you could see the facial expression was, okay, why would he do that? So Margaret, on the other hand, said, if that guy is crying in front of me, something drastic must have happened in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably years of trauma that individual is carrying.
Right.
So you look at the opposite end of the spectrum and you say, okay, who do you want to be with? Right? The airhead that's pretty. Margaret's also pretty, but she's not as pretty as the airhead. And that's where we need to sum it up, because I've seen a lot of my mates cry in front of their partners. And their partners come in, they soothe them, they comfort them as a traditional woman does.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, they say, listen, okay, you've had your cry. Let us brainstorm, but we're not going to cry about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Right.
You continue to put yourself out there. Sometimes, if one thing is not working, for example, again, we look at Lewis as an example. That Ferrari was awful last season.
Oh, it was terrible.
Right, it wasn't working. This season, what did he do? We need to make changes. And you reap the fruits of your labor. And when you start making subtle changes, but you've got someone you need to talk to, but you got to listen to that other voice at the end of the table.
Mm.
It's pointless. I'm going to come in here every week and say, Adip, Sila, I was watching Chelsea play last week and they lost 3-1. I watched them play again and they lost 4-2.
Well, the same thing would apply to me, is that we can see I'm a big Lewis fan, and I could complain to you about the whole 2025 season.
Yep.
I can complain to you about it the whole time, but first of all, I don't control Ferrari.
Yeah.
Second of all, I don't control Lewis.
Yes.
Third of all, I don't have any holdings on the Scuderia Ferrari F1 team. So why am I crying?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's the same with life, because if I'm going to cry about the same thing over and over and over, there comes a time when I, as an individual, need to fucking man up and let it go.
Right. So I think we summed it up in to sum up this segment of this episode, right? I would say that there's long durations, and responsible men know that there are long durations between their tears. Efforts must be done in order to rectify the situation or correct the situation, and irrespective of the outcome, win or lose, tears will fall. That's genuine. And that is the one aspect that I can say. A respectful man knows when to cry, right? A responsible man will also know who not to cry with. And that is the person that shows disingenuousness. But also at the same time, a responsible man knows that they can't always go to the person that they're crying without trying the solutions that they picked out or brainstormed. And then who do men trust? I would say it's the people that he has picked in his life that are important. Responsible men know who they pick in their life. Whether goals are the same or there are certain differences, perfectly they know who to go to when they are in their vulnerable states. But the most important person that they go to is their wife. And how you know you picked a great wife is when she sits, she does all of these things with you. She brainstorms with you, she gives you solutions. What makes you an irresponsible man is you took the time, her time, by crying and did not apply any of the solutions. Half-baked at least, but doesn't make sense. Okay, so we can close with that definition, right?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
happy with that.
So I think I have a very interesting topic for us to discuss in our next segment, our next episode. And I think it is an important thing because men have become the antagonist of society. So our next segment, our next topic of discussion is man as a role model.
Finally.
So we're gonna look at our heroes, our superheroes, our supervillains, our cricketers, F1, Senna, Prost, Mansell, Lewis, David Beckham, Cantona, all of them. We're going to look at them and so what have we learned from them that have made that we can say that they are our role models. Guys, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Adip. Thank you, Saila.
Always a pleasure, guys.